Despite what you might think, every time Duke Tobin addresses the media, we learn a little something about the inner workings of the Cincinnati Bengals. Let's break down what we're hoping to learn from Duke Tobin's first post-mortem media appearance this Friday.
You are Locked On Bengals, your daily Cincinnati Bengals podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What up, Bengals fans, and welcome to another episode of the Locked On Bengals podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. He's James Rapien. I'm Jake Liscow. We are your hosts of Locked On Bengals, bringing you daily Cincinnati Bengals content going all the way back to 2016. That's 10 years ago since this podcast started, or approaching 10 years ago. And today we break down a tumultuous day that occurred on Tuesday that concluded with John Harbaugh's firing by the Baltimore Ravens and the juxtaposition of what's going on in the AFC North with what's going on with the Cincinnati Bengals and the retention of Zac Taylor. We haven't discussed Zac's last media appearance of the season, his Monday press conference. And of course, we'll hear from these guys throughout the offseason, but we get a post-mortem, meaning a reflection post-season media appearance from Duke Tobin on Friday, James. And that's where we will start today and discuss what we're hoping to learn, because I think a lot of fans are really keying in on this presser, this new thing the Bengals are offering up with Duke Tobin for the first time here. Not a combine appearance, not a pre-draft appearance, but a postseason reflective appearance for Duke Tobin. That's where we'll start today. Today's episode is sponsored by PrizePicks, where you can get $50 in lineup after you play your first $5 lineup with promo code Locked On NFL in the PrizePicks app. James, you're going to be there. You were there for Zac Taylor. He spent about 30 minutes with you guys down at Paycor Stadium on Mondays. And this Friday, Duke Tobin at 1 p.m. A lot of the same media will be there. I know you'll be there. So let's start with your perspective on this, because you're going to be in the room. What are you hoping this presser with Duke Tobin gets to the bottom of? What are you hoping to turn up in this conversation with Duke Tobin on Friday?
I hope that Duke acknowledges how short they've come up in free agency and how that's impacted what they've done or what they haven't done, and really impacted them when they're in the middle of the season and they're facing the adversity that Joe Burrow posted on Instagram about. But 2025 is adversity. And good teams, when they're hit with adversity, they find a way to win some games. And this Bengals team hasn't been able to do that. They did do that in 2021 when we interviewed Zac Taylor during the bye, going into the bye. They had lost 2 straight. And Zac Taylor comes on our show and we're like, hey, you confident you could turn it around? Yes, I'm confident. Here's why I'm confident. Deep down, he didn't know if they were going to turn it around or not. But guess what? They responded to adversity well. And I think it's a very simple thing. They haven't had enough talent. They haven't had enough talent because they haven't done enough in free agency. And so I want Duke Tobin to acknowledge that, damn it, we got to do exactly what Joe said on Sunday, which is make our weaknesses a ton better. And that's what I'm hoping for. And if he does that, and he should do that, by the way, Friday isn't for us. It's for Duke, to be very, very clear. It's not for the media. It helps the media for sure, because we can actually ask him questions instead of ask Zac questions and say, Zac, we don't get to talk to everybody else, all of those things. Like, we get that. But it's for the Bengals to make it perfectly clear what their intentions are this season or this offseason, to make it perfectly clear why they believe that they can get it right and do something that they've never, ever done, which is win a Super Bowl. Like, that's what Friday is for. As much as anything, that's why you make Duke available. It isn't to appease James or Paul or anybody else that's going to be in that room, or Ben or Kelsey, or no. It's to set the record straight and hopefully set the tone for what needs to be. You know, we've had multiple times over the past few years. You made fun of it the other day, or maybe you didn't make fun of it necessarily, but you said you're not going to call it the biggest offseason in Bengals history. Well, no, this is it's a prove it offseason. This Bengals organization needs to prove it. I'm a big equity guy. I say equity all the time on this show, and their equity's gone. Their equity should be gone with Joe Burrow. It should be gone with Jamar Chase. and they need to find a way to get it back. And so that's one of many things I'm interested in is the moving forward. There's a lot of stuff in the past that I'd be curious about learning Duke-wise. What the hell went on last year when at the combine he said, I don't want to pay more for the same team, and then they ran it back essentially with a few new faces, but not many, and some draft picks. Is that Duke? Is that not? I don't think we're going to learn that. I think that's unrealistic. What we may be able to learn is, hey, we realize we've screwed up the past couple of years. When we were good, we were really active in free agency. We got those purse strings open, they're loosened, and the checks are ready to be written.
It's interesting that you're taking the more forward-looking approach, and I understand why. I'm really interested in the reflection part, and you're probably right. You probably don't get that kind of transparency from Duke Tobin here. The way that we didn't get that kind of transparency from Zac Taylor. You asked Zac, did you have enough talent on the roster to win? Quick answer from Zac. Yes.
Yes.
Did you guys sign enough free agents last year?
Yes.
Maybe that's not exactly how you phrase the question.
Yeah.
Pretty quick answer. Yeah, we were all on the same page. We were all aligned, right? Like, come on,
and there's
man.
no
Like,
Zac should have said we didn't have enough talent, right? Like, because he clearly feels that way. Like, I know he feels that way. He didn't tell me. You just know.
He answered other questions that acknowledged that he feels that way, talking about being on the same page as Jamar Chase and expecting to be on the same page as Joe Burrow and having a vision for the offseason. And obviously he acknowledged, that they still need to talk about the things they want to accomplish this offseason, but having an idea, everyone has an idea. Everyone watched this team this year and understands what needs to happen, right? But that's why I'm so interested in hearing Duke talk about what happened last year, because we heard Zac answer a question from Paul Dehner on Monday, and we're blurring these topics now. The other topic today is really Zac's presser and how this compares to all these things. But yeah, they go hand in hand. We heard
lines,
Zac,
baby. We
heard Zac talk to Paul Dehner about the benefits of continuity. Like now we've got 2 years with this coaching staff. The coaching staff didn't join us at, in early February when we're putting it together. Like, first off,
early February.
You guys can't do an off season when you don't have your coaching staff together, because this also happened in Zac's first season with Cincinnati. The staff came together really late, and they had a terrible off season. They didn't get guys in the building that they needed, and they were dreadful. They did not have the Mike Vrabel first year, the Liam Cohen first year in Jacksonville or New England, or even the Mike McDonald first year in Seattle or I guess 2 seasons ago, last season, whatever you want to call it. I guess for them, the season is still going. So what happened last offseason, or even 2 off seasons ago, when they had to have known, they know by the time free agency arrives what the texture of the draft is. Going back to 2 years ago when they drafted Chris Jenkins and McKinley Jackson, or last year when they drafted 2 linebackers, Demetrius Knight and Barrett Carter in the 2nd and 4th rounds, they know where the strengths and weaknesses are in this draft class. They know, roughly speaking, where those guys are going to be picked and what they need. And if you're telling me that, oh, you know what, we actually didn't really realize what we needed at linebacker until we got a year with Al Golden, like, that's a huge indictment in the first place. But can we get to a draft without having these pressing needs at weak spots in the draft? Like, what's leading to that? That's what I want to know. Like, what happened last year?
Yeah.
Were you guys too tight? Like, was it you were too focused on Jamar and T? Did you really get what you wanted out of that free agency period? Would you like it, Duke, if you guys structured contracts a little bit differently, so you had a little bit more cap space to pay a few more guys? Would you like it if your employers guaranteed more money outside of year one to make your contract offers more competitive with your peers across the NFL? Like, those are some of the things that Duke will never answer, but I'm curious to hear.
Do you feel like the organization's been on the same page and the powers that be have been on the same page throughout the draft process and the offseason and the player acquisition process?
I know he'll answer. I know he'll say yes. You know he will.
You know he will. And so that leads into another topic, and we can blur the lines because whether it's Zac, whether it's Duke, what the goal for me will be going into Friday.
Yeah.
And what the goal for me going into Monday, and the goal for me going into Joe's interview on Sunday. The goal for those, I think, is important as we try to peel back layers, get hints, figure out as much info as we can, because it is a really important offseason. And the reason people are pissed off is because it feels like they're wasting Joe Burrow. who's the best quarterback in franchise history, and Jamar Chase, who's the best receiver in franchise history, and T. Higgins, who's a really darn good player and should be a Ring of Honor type of player if he continues to play the way he does. So we're going to continue the conversation with that. Duke, Zach, let's blur those lines, Jake, coming up next. Today's show is brought to you by Rocket Money. Let's be real. Managing your finances can feel overwhelming. It's a new year, and it can be a new you, and it can be really simple with Rocket Money. Rocket Money is the personal finance app that helps you take control. It finds and cancels unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. Rocket Money is awesome. I use Rocket Money. And the beauty of it is it lets you know, hey, there's a deposit coming. Hey, maybe you have automatic withdrawal. There's a deposit or a withdrawal coming right now, and it's a significant one, right? Like my mortgage comes out, and guess what? Rocket Money alerts me. So anything like that, oh, this is an unusual transaction, gives you a heads up. So from that to unwanted subscriptions to just helping you keep your budget, reach your goals in 2026. The Bengals have a lot of goals. They need to be signing a lot of folks. Rocket Money might be able to help them as well. It's certainly going to be able to help you right now. Let Rocket Money help reach your financial goals faster. Join at rocketmoney.com/lockedon. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon. rocketmoney.com/lockedon.
We're brought to you today by FanDuel as well. Obviously, the wild card round is here. There's some good games this weekend, and the Bengals aren't in them, but FanDuel is officially in playoff mode for the NFL. Every game day during the NFL playoffs, FanDuel is giving customers even more ways to get in on the action because every playoff game day, FanDuel users get a profit boost pack waiting for them in the app. Each game day, you'll see a pack loaded with multiple profit boosts that you can apply to the bets you like most. All you have to do is open your profit boost pack first thing on game day and see what boost you want to apply. The boost lets you lean into your game day instincts, whether you're backing momentum, defense, quarterback play, or coaching. The boost gives you more juice on the bets you already like instead of forcing you to bet something new. Every play feels bigger, and the boosts make your bets feel that way too. So visit FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL, and grab your profit boost pack every NFL playoff game day.
We'll continue the conversation with what exactly I'll be looking for on Friday. Like I said, I was referring to Joe on Sunday post game, or obviously Zach's end of season press conference on Monday. But really quick, wanted to shout out my guy, Jay Morrison. Really tough time. I'm not sure if you've heard. I imagine a lot of you have. I know a lot of you listen to the Growler, watch the Growler, pay attention to Jay's work at BengalsTalk.com. His wife passed away in a tragic fashion last month, and Nikki was the best. And so I know Paul Dehner Jr. put together this GoFundMe. A lot of people have asked, how can you support? It is up right now. If you're watching on YouTube, there's a QR code. I will make sure that I tweet it and put it on my socials as well. And yeah, Jay is the best. That's the best way I could describe him. He's the best. Nikki was an awesome person. They were the perfect couple, and it's really unfortunate. So if you wanted to support them, if you were wondering when you heard the news last month or at any point, I mean, Jake, they had like on his official announcement when he announced her passing, it was like 5 million, 6 million views on X. So it's just, I know the family has felt all of the well wishes. And so, yeah, if you wanted to help support, I just wanted to give that a mention. And like I said, it'll be on our socials as well. And shout out to Paul for putting that together. Obviously, we're thinking about Jay and his family. And yeah, there's no great transition here, but we got to get to Duke and what we're looking for on Friday. And the main thing going into any of these, combine, Friday, pre-draft, post-draft, when you ask questions, it isn't about the question. And because we get a lot of well, you got to ask tougher questions and you got to present it a certain way and you got to do this. The whole point is to get a good answer. The question, and you can ask stupid questions. There are stupid questions for sure. I've asked plenty of stupid questions, and I will probably ask stupid questions on Friday. It's part of the job. It's like throwing an incomplete pass. It happens. You got to live with it. Taking a bad sack, whatever you want to say, whatever analogy. But you want to get a good answer. You want to get something that we can hang our hat on. Like the Joe Burrow free agent, it's paramount to our success. Like that's a huge answer because for the next 3 months, we're going to be thinking about that quote and referencing that. And so can we get the answers that one, people want? For sure, that would be great. But the info that we want, everybody wants, in as much detail as possible, that's the goal. And so that's always my goal going into these. It's not to say, hey, Zach, Zach, do you think you should be fired? Like, hell no, he doesn't think he should be fired. Why would I ask him that? Like, that's a dumb question. Doesn't mean that I won't ask a dumb question anyway, but it's not going to get a good answer and it's not going to help anything. The talent one I thought was going to be short, but I still thought it was relevant for him to say, yeah, we had enough talent, because now we have him on record saying, yeah, we have enough talent, even though we both know they didn't have enough talent. So there you go. That's my goal going into Friday.
I think that's always the most reasonable goal. You want to get the answers to the questions that maybe you're not directly asking. And there's ways to prod at the edges of things without being confrontational. And I think a lot of times fans are interested in the media going in there picking a fight. They see the way that potentially, the environment is in New York City, for example, where there are sometimes more fiery exchanges or more confrontational exchanges. And maybe they're watching political exchanges elsewhere, like in a different world entirely than what we're talking about when it comes to football reporting and beat reporting in the NFL. And so I think that a lot of people also think Duke never says anything, and I don't really agree with that. I think we talked about that on Monday. You always tend to get some little tidbit from Duke. You can sometimes glean things here and there, but when they don't like your question, when they understand that you are asking them a question that wants them to admit a hard truth, you get generally very quick, brief answers that don't really answer those questions. And we talked about a couple of those from Zac Taylor's presser that you asked early in the show. You just referred to another, like, did you have enough talent? Yes. Okay. Why didn't you win games? Like, where's the,
not making any coaching staff changes,
and he was asked as well, like, were there any trends? Anything you can point to? Like, why? Charlie Goldsmith asked, is there something you can point to as you reviewed this entire season that is why this didn't go the way you wanted it to go? And Zach's like, well, which game? Like it was different every week. So even if you ask that question, that immediate follow-up, yeah, we had enough talent. Okay, why didn't you win? He would answer the same exact way. Well, which game? It was something different every week. And so those questions, the way that the questions are phrased and pointed will elicit answers based on how comfortable the interviewee is offering up the information. Now, Duke Tobin is going to go into this presser on Friday, like you said at the beginning of the show here, with an agenda. And Duke always does this. He knows what points he wants to get across and will go out of his way to answer the questions that might be 1% related to a talking point that he has to get across that talking point. That being said, like it is the job of the media and it is your job to try to get to the answers to questions that are relevant to the reason that this press conference is being held. And we're going to hear again from Duke Tobin at the Combine. Everyone talks at the Combine. That's the next time we're going to hear from Duke Tobin. And at that point, there are going to be a lot of questions about the future. That's why this one, to me, James, is so interesting as an opportunity to reflect on how they got to this point and how this season went, where they didn't meet expectations and where they fell short and why, as much as Duke Tobin is willing to answer those kinds of questions.
Yeah, no doubt. And if we can get that, maybe he mentions a position. Like there's just like the little nugget. And then we take that and we're like, oh, maybe they're looking at this in free agency. Or maybe this is what they're thinking. Or maybe they would shock the world and make a trade for a veteran that's going to be a game changer for them. Like you just never know. Maybe they would decide to trade here, trade there, because you hit on it earlier. Please don't go into the draft with a bunch of weaknesses, like some glaring, like gigantic holes. Because
the Caleb Downs or bust plan. Like, no, like don't do that again, please.
No. And by the way, that's dumb. I don't need to watch any of Caleb Downs to say that's dumb. And it's dumb even if you get him. What if he's just not ready? What if it takes him 10 weeks? What if it takes him a year? Like, I thought Dax Hill was great right away. And guess what? It took him a little bit. And I think there were reasons for that. And the Bengals certainly didn't help the situation, but sometimes it takes time. I'm fine with the 10th overall pick having a role right away as a rookie. And it would be nice if he was a game-changing player right away. And maybe he will be. In Downs or whoever, right? David Bailey, whoever. But have options to where if you get that guy and he goes in and he earns it, great. But not to where you're penciling him in, oh, he's got to start for us and be a game changer right away. It's a lot to ask. It's too much to ask, especially for a team that sure as hell better bounce back next season. We'll continue the conversation with, some wild, wacky fun in the AFC North, 6-11. Well, you're staying in heaven, but John Harbaugh, well, he's the belle of the ball. We'll get to him coming up next. Today's show is brought to you by Ultimate QB. Ever wish to become a pro quarterback and getting drafted first overall like Joe Burrow by the Bengals? Well, the Bengals have the 10th pick this year, and that's the fun, is there's a mobile game just for you. It's called Ultimate QB Football Legend. In this game, you step into the cleats of the number one draft pick quarterback, and it's your job to lead your team to greatness to help turn a falling franchise into a dynasty. This is the number one quarterback career mode game on mobile app stores, and it introduces the most realistic environment and full career control. Sign contracts, train, upgrade yourself, build chemistry, evolve your teammates, give input to your GM like, hey, spend money, honey. You can do all of those things with Ultimate Quarterback. Ultimate QB is totally free to play, has no ads, and works 100% offline. Perfect for flights. You can sneak in a quick game or two on the go. All you have to do is head to ultimate-qb.com. That's ultimate-qb.com, or search Ultimate QB in your app store. And we've got something special just for Locked On Bengals listeners. Use promo code Locked On. That's all caps, Locked On, in the game's store to get a free boost at the start of your career. Ultimate QB Football Legend, QB1. It's your legacy.
John Harbaugh was let go by the Baltimore Ravens with reportedly 3 years left on his deal.
That's a lot of money, honey. I said honey twice in a show. That's a record.
Kevin Stefanski let go by Cleveland earlier this week.
It's a lot of money, too.
We'll see if Mike Tomlin survives. We'll see what happens in that wild card
game. Can
game.
you imagine if all three?
Can you imagine? Can't you?
It's wow. Yes, I can. And then let me ask you this. Do you think Zac Taylor was the fourth best head coach in the AFC North coming into this year, if you power ranked him? Or now, whatever you want to.
I think that probably. I think that what's hard about it is John Harbaugh in Baltimore has had his issues, no doubt about it. They should have had more success in Lamar Jackson's tenure with all of the players they've had. And part of that is that the front office and the organization in Baltimore is seen by most in the industry as something to aspire to. One of the best run teams in the NFL. Mm-hmm. The Steelers largely have a similar reputation despite doing some business in similar ways to the way the Bengals do business. They've just been remarkably consistent. Those two guys, Tomlin and Harbaugh, have not been held back by front offices necessarily. And I think Pittsburgh fans would probably argue that their front office has its issues. But Stefanski and Taylor are both saddled with these dysfunctional organizations in different ways, right? And that's where it gets really hard to differentiate these guys. Because I don't think Zach is a bad coach per se. But I think that the reception to John Harbaugh's hiring tells you that the industry thinks he is an exceptional coach, to the point that some organizations that have not yet fired their coaches are trying to work back channels to figure out if they can secure John Harbaugh before making a decision to move on from their own guys. And Kevin Stefanski is also drawing immediate interest. And I can guarantee you that Mike Tomlin would draw immediate interest if he were let go by the Pittsburgh Steelers. So, yeah, I mean,
who's better? Who would you take? Would you take one of them? Would you be, let's start here with the guy that is available. If you're Mike Brown, obviously we don't think Mike is doing this. If you're Mike Brown, do you make that call back channel wise? Say, hey, would you come coach Joe Burrow?
I think you have the conversation. I think that last year I'm curious about your feelings on it compared to Vrabel last year, because you were really on Vrabel last year. I was
Yes.
really on Ben Johnson last year. Like last year, I would have
Mhm.
gone after Ben Johnson, and you would have gone after Vrabel. And turns out both are good, both are pretty good coaches.
Yep.
Uh,
Yeah.
what do you think? How does this compare to Vrabel for you? Because we've seen Harbaugh up close, and we've seen the letdowns for Harbaugh in the playoffs. But at the same time, like
Yeah.
the fumble in the jungle play, a missed kick, a guy that gets tackled on the one against the Chiefs, Mark Andrews drop it.
Yeah.
There are all these plays where the Ravens have been right there, and how much of that
Mhm.
is coaching at that point? Um, what do you think? How does it compare to the Vrabels and Ben Johnsons of the world for you?
It, it's interesting because it's so fresh.
Mm-hmm.
Like I loved Vrabel because like
You had
I
time to
knew
think about it.
I knew he was gonna come back and be this freaking I'm gonna be the Incredible Hulk in like whatever job he took, I thought he would have success at. And because he watched and we like Brian, friend of the show, Brian Callahan. He watches Brian Callahan get that job, and I guarantee he was like, "Are you guys serious? You fired me to get like," and you would take that personal. I know I would, right? And so he interviews in Los Angeles with the Chargers, and they ended up Harbaugh. They hired Jim Harbaugh. So that's another one. Oh, you got to hire the Michigan coach. Okay, we'll see. And that chip just gets bigger, bigger, bigger. And so yeah, I wonder. I would want to talk to Harbaugh and see where that fire is. If it's all the way there still, well, then that's different than like Marvin Lewis in 2018, where it was just kind of going through, they were just kind of going through the motions, it felt like at
Mm-hmm.
that point.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're in a place for a long time, it can go one of two ways. Here's what I will say though, and this is all due respect to Joe Flacco, who I hope is a Bengal next year. John Harbaugh has never had a Joe Burrow. And I say this knowing that Ravens fans are going to see it, knowing that they're going to be like, oh my God, you are dumb. Look at that MVP. I love Lamar pre-draft. The Bengals were idiots for not drafting him. He's not Joe Burrow. There's a reason Joe's had postseason success. There's a reason Lamar has struggled so much in the playoffs. In styles are a big factor. Joe can play any style you want. Doesn't matter. Down 21-3, up 3, down 7, up 8, down 3 offensive linemen. Up, it doesn't matter. Road, home, Antarctica, it travels. He can do it. And that's a huge factor in the playoffs. And so would I like to see it? Sure, if he's got that chip. And so I would have to talk to him. Because it sounds like with the more info that we've gotten, he was kind of blindsided by this. And it's like going through a divorce after 18 years. I feel like if you're blindsided by it, like it's feels like a marriage that has just ended. And I don't know if you can recover from that quickly enough
Mm-hmm.
to jump back in and be it. Maybe he can. And maybe that chip is there and he's ready to go. And if he is, then yeah, to me, he's one of the best coaches in the NFL. And it could be very Andy Reid-like instead of, we've mentioned Andy Reid a few times on the pod this week, the Philly to Kansas City transition. And so, yeah, that would be kind of the blueprint to a degree. Obviously, Harbaugh won a bowl, but he won a Super Bowl when Joe Flacco was not considered elite yet, right? Hadn't gotten a huge deal yet. Had just gotten it, I think. And I was still in college. So it's been a long time, Jake.
It's just interesting to juxtapose the guys that were let go with the decision to keep Zac Taylor and the results recently. Like Kevin Stefanski's made the playoffs more recently than Zac Taylor's made the playoffs. And I know the last
With
2
Joe
years.
With Joe Flacco.
I know the last 2 years for Stefanski have been terrible. They have. They've won, what, like 6 games in the last 2 years?
8 games. 8 games.
8 games, okay. I mean, it's similar to how Zach started, right?
Yeah.
But Stefanski overall in Cleveland won 45% of his games, 44.5. Zac Taylor's won 45.3% of his games in Cincinnati. He's got a 453 winning percentage. John Harbaugh had a 614 winning percentage over his tenure in Baltimore, and that's 650 since 2019, since the Bengals hired Zac Taylor. Obviously, they've had their issues in the playoffs. I wonder how much of that falls at the head coach's feet. Obviously, they had issues this year. And reportedly, it sounds like Harbaugh lost the locker room, lost the quarterback, and there were discussions around his unwillingness to move on from Todd Monken. So it sounds like there were perhaps some issues internally with the way the offense was going. But Harbaugh made the playoffs 6 out of the last 8 years. They didn't have any terribly great success in the playoffs, but the standards are just different, right? And I think Ravens fans probably were ready to see this happen too. I think that a lot of Ravens fans are ready to see them try to shake it up. Sometimes you just need to shake it up, but I do think that the standards are different. And the other factor here, it takes me back to when the Bengals moved on from Marvin Lewis the first time. There's a refrain of like, well, who are the Bengals going to hire? They're not going to pay Ben Johnson $10 million or $15 million or whatever Ben Johnson got from the Bears. They're not going to pay Mike Vrabel enough to pry him away from New England and go back to where he played for Bill Belichick and won all those games. So, like, what's the point anyway is part of the conversation too. But the comparison of what Taylor has done over his tenure, what Taylor has done lately, 9-8, 9-8, 6-11. Missing the playoffs 3 straight years and keeps his job versus what his peers are doing in the AFC North does stand out and is a bit jarring when you think of it that way.
What if the Ravens hired Bill Belichick?
I wonder what Belichick would do in the NFL at this point. That's such a mystery to me.
Well, if he ditches the 25-year-old, I still think he's a great coach, right? And doesn't let that be a thing, the college stuff, whatever. But he can be that figure, because I'm really trying to think, like, from a Ravens perspective, who gets your juices flow? Like, I think Dan Pitcher is a really good coach.
Oh, they're real excited for Jesse Minter, I think.
Enjoy. I would take Harbaugh over Minter. So there you go.
Jesse Minter's been linked to Baltimore for months now. I am curious to see what changes with the Cincinnati Bengals.
They should have just promoted Mike McDonald, my friend.
Oh yeah.
Bengals dodged that one. Ooh, what a W for the Bengals. They haven't taken advantage of it, but huge dub.
When Mike McDonald left, I talked about it a lot on this podcast. I think he is the Sean McVay of defensive coaches in this league. I think he's an excellent coach. I think he's a coach of the year.
Got Nicky Manwari, draft crush, Nicky Manwari.
I mean, he's a wizard with every. I mean, that entire defense. Devin Witherspoon, the defensive tackles, what he's getting out of those defensive ends out there, like the whole thing. But what's going to be interesting now is to see what changes actually materialize with Zac Taylor, talking about his vision for the future, talking about his belief in this coaching staff, whether they can reap any of the benefits of continuity that we've heard them talk about before and we haven't really seen. But Taylor is sticking now. And so now the question is, what changes actually play out? What lessons does he take away as he's reviewing his many notebooks, reflecting on his last 7 seasons? And what does he take away and change? Last year it was fast starts. This year he's talking about turnovers. He's talked about turnovers. That was one thing that really stood out to me. It's something that he's pinpointed. Turnovers and finishing games. And we'll see how their offseason approach either puts them in position to do that or looks like more of the same of what we've seen the last few years.
Let me ask you this, because you tried to right the ship, but I'm gonna shake it up a little bit. The Ravens call. We're interested in Zac Taylor. What's the asking price? They wanted to trade for Zac. No, I'm dead serious. I know this won't happen. What's your asking price?
I don't know. Seriously. I have no idea what coaches get traded for. What was the last
a division rival? It can't be a one. You can't. Would you? No.
What was the last head coach trade in the NFL? I know they've happened, but I don't remember them.
Was it Gruden?
Was it? Was Dungy a trade too?
It might have been Dungy. It was one of those. Anyways, what? Come on, give me something.
I don't know, like a 3rd round pick. My price isn't high.
I tried a division rival. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. But like the issue is it goes back to like how late they put these staffs together and how much issues they had with the lateness of the process when they hired Zac, when they changed their defensive coordinator, and how this apparently threw this huge wrench into their offseason, or it was because they had to negotiate with Jamar and T and they couldn't do anything else. Like, no matter what it is there, all of that is unacceptable. But they don't have those excuses this year. So it's got to be better this offseason. And Again, I'm going to be curious to see what changes are coming for Zac. And I know he said he wasn't making any changes to the staff, but I'll be interested to see if they hire any additional coaches.
They add
like a pass rush coach, or maybe there's a role for Brian Callahan. Speaking of Brian Callahan, to return in some capacity if he's interested in doing so. I wonder if they'll add anybody.
I mean, I imagine Brian is thinking, "Hey, Detroit has a lot of weapons."
Yeah,
if Dan doesn't get picked up, Detroit to me seems like, if you're Dan Campbell, think a little bit, man.
Sure.
You shouldn't be calling plays, Dan. I like Dan a lot, by the way. Another figurehead coach. Anyways, we could go on and on. I suddenly got all this energy, Jake. We could go on and on. There's a lot here.
We still have to talk about the Bengals offseason to-do list. We still have to talk about what Duke Tobin is going to say. And
there's a lot to do.
Yeah, we've got a lot to talk about here as the offseason gets going. And then it'll slow down a little bit.
No way.
Right?
No, it won't. Because then the combine's going to be here. Jake does this every year.
No, then the combine gets here.
Crazy.
Then the combine gets crazy.
And then it's free agency, and then suddenly the draft is 3 weeks away, and then it's a scramble drill.
Well, once the combine arrives, it gets fast. But people right now are like, they need to get Dalton Risner done this week. And we're at the 36-minute mark. So we're here with the everydayers at this point, sticking with us to the end of the show that we're about to wrap up.
What do you have a guest on? Anytime you have a guest on and it's not me, it goes 36 minutes. So I'm a guest today.
Well, we're recording at an odd hour for us. Let's blame it on that. But Dalton Risner re-signing, if he re-signs in January, it'll be the first major deal the Bengals have gotten done in January in recent history. And this happens for most teams. Most teams aren't doing deals, aren't re-signing guys until early March, until the combine comes around. So something to watch, certainly. But a lot of Bengals fans are like, why haven't they re-signed Dalton Risner yet? Generally, veteran deals, veteran re-signings don't happen until much, much closer to the start of free agency. We'll see if it's any different with Risner. We'll obviously be talking about Dalton Risner as part of the to-do list for the Bengals here this offseason, and that'll be a show we get to soon here on Locked On Bengals. But until then, that's going to do it for this episode of the Locked On Bengals podcast. Thanks for listening. Hoo day, and have a good one.